I had worked hard for years, sacrificing my time, my energy, and sometimes even my personal life, all to climb the corporate ladder. I had been at my current job for 5 years, and in that time, I had consistently proven myself. I was always on time, always delivering results, and always going above and beyond to meet the company's expectations. I had earned the respect of my colleagues, and I thought I had finally earned the chance to move up in the company. So when I heard that the company was looking to promote someone to a managerial position, I thought I had it in the bag. I had been anticipating this opportunity for months, and everything seemed to be falling into place. My performance reviews had been glowing, and I had built a reputation for being reliable and hardworking. All the signs pointed to me being the perfect fit for the role. But then the unexpected happened. My boss, Mr. Stevens, called me into his office one afternoon to make the big announcement. I walked in, feeling a rush of excitement, only to have my heart sink when he said the words, "I'm happy to announce that we've decided to promote Mark to the managerial position." Mark, the very coworker I had spent the last few years carrying on my back. He was often late, always behind on his work, and rarely ever took initiative. I had covered for him more times than I could count. He seemed to always find ways to pass off the tough tasks to others, leaving me to pick up the slack. I couldn't believe it. After everything I had done for this company, they chose him. "Mark has shown potential in areas I believe will benefit the team," Mr. Stevens continued, as though justifying the decision. "I think he's the right fit." I felt my stomach twist as I fought to keep my composure. I had always been a professional, but this felt like a slap in the face. I wanted to say something, to argue, but the words just wouldn't come. I had worked so hard to prove myself, and this lazy, incompetent man had just been handed my dream job. I forced a smile, nodding as Mr. Stevens continued to explain the promotion details, but inside, I felt my world shattering. My years of hard work, my dedication to this company, had meant nothing. I felt invisible, like I had been overlooked in favor of someone who didn't deserve it. But I wasn't going to let this pass quietly. No, I had one more move left. That night, as I sat at my desk, I wrote my resignation letter. It wasn't going to be just any resignation letter. I had a plan. I wasn't going to leave quietly. I was going to make sure Mr. Stevens knew exactly how I felt. And more importantly, I was going to make sure Mark would understand that his promotion came at a high cost. The next day, I walked into the office with a sense of quiet resolve. As I passed by Mark, who was sitting at his desk chatting with a few colleagues, I couldn't help but feel a surge of disdain. He looked so pleased with himself, so smug, as though he had actually worked for this promotion, and it made my blood boil. I had been busting my ass for years, and here he was, doing the bare minimum and getting rewarded for it. The more I thought about it, the more the injustice of it all stung. But I wasn't going to let my frustration show. I wasn't going to let Mark, or anyone else, see how much this hurt. Instead, I went to my desk, opened my laptop, and began typing up my resignation letter. I knew I needed to be careful with my words. I wasn't just leaving this company, I was making a statement. I wanted to be professional, but I also wanted to leave no room for misunderstanding. They needed to know exactly why I was walking away. I began with the usual formalities, stating the date of my resignation and my intent to leave, but then I added something that would change everything. In the middle of the letter, I wrote, "While I have greatly appreciated the opportunities to learn and grow here, I can no longer continue working under an environment where hard work and dedication are not recognized. It is disheartening to watch someone with less commitment and fewer results receive a promotion that I have worked tirelessly to earn. This decision to promote Mark, someone who has repeatedly failed to meet basic expectations, has shown me that my contributions here are neither valued nor appreciated." I paused, reading the words again, trying to assess if I was being too harsh, too emotional. But then I thought, no, this was the truth. I had earned that promotion. I had paid my dues, made sacrifices, and given everything to this company. And now I was being discarded in favor of someone who had barely scraped by. I wasn't going to let this go without calling it out. I continued. I had hoped that my dedication would be rewarded, but it has become clear that hard work is not the value this company holds dear. As such, I have decided that it is time for me to move on and find a place where my efforts will be recognized, where I can grow in an environment that truly values its employees. As I typed those final words, a sense of empowerment filled me. This was my choice. I wasn't just walking away from the job, I was walking away from a toxic environment that didn't appreciate the very qualities I prided myself on: diligence, commitment, and integrity. Before I could change my mind, I hit send. My resignation letter was on its way to Mr. Stevens. I immediately felt a sense of relief wash over me, though my mind still buzzed with anger. I had done it. I had taken control of my situation, and I knew that whatever happened next, I would be better off without this company. But I wasn't done yet. I knew that Mark needed to understand that his promotion hadn't come without consequences. He had taken something from me, something I had worked hard for, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I was about to give him something he would never forget. As I walked towards the HR department to turn in my company keys and badge, I made sure to pass by Mark's desk. I stood there for a moment, watching him work, knowing he had no idea what was coming. I couldn't help but feel a bit of satisfaction knowing that soon enough, he'd be the one feeling the weight of this decision. As I handed in my resignation to HR and walked out of the office for the last time, I felt an overwhelming mix of emotions. Relief, of course, but also a deep sense of satisfaction. I was done with that company. I was done with feeling like I was being taken for granted. Walking out of those office doors for the final time felt like I was leaving behind a life that had drained me, physically, emotionally, and mentally. The work environment had slowly chipped away at my confidence, making me doubt my abilities, but now, that was all behind me. It wasn't just the promotion that had pushed me to this point. It was the countless instances of being passed over, of being the one to clean up others' messes while they took credit for my work. The blatant favoritism and lack of recognition had taken its toll, and I knew it was time for me to move on and find a place where my hard work would be valued. But as I walked down the hallway towards the exit, I knew there was still one more thing I needed to do. I needed to make sure that Jason, the person who had been promoted, understood the consequences of his actions. He needed to understand that this wasn't just about a promotion. It was about the systemic lack of appreciation for those who truly deserved it. And I knew the perfect way to make him realize the impact of his actions. That night, after I had settled in at home, I carefully crafted a message. I didn't want to be petty, but I also didn't want him to leave this situation without some real consequences. He needed to understand the weight of his promotion, how it wasn't just a boost for his career, but a blow to someone else's career. A blow that had cost me my future in the company. I drafted a message that was professional yet firm. I made sure to let him know exactly what had happened. Dear Mark, while I truly wish you the best in your new role, I wanted to take a moment to express my frustration and disappointment regarding the recent promotion decision. As you may or may not know, I have worked hard for years to achieve a managerial position. Yet, in an unexpected and frankly unjust turn of events, you were promoted instead of me. I can't help but feel that this decision is not only a personal betrayal, but also a reflection of the lack of recognition for hard work and dedication within the company. While I acknowledge your contributions, I believe this promotion is undeserved, especially when compared to the consistent and outstanding performance I have put forward during my tenure. I don't expect you to understand or feel the same way, but I do hope that at the very least you recognize that this promotion, while benefiting you, has significant consequences for me and my future in the company. The reality of working with individuals who fail to value true dedication and talent is what ultimately drove me to resign. I wish you the best, but I also want you to understand the weight of your promotion. Not all success comes without consequences. By the time I finished typing, my hands were shaking, but it felt good. I wasn't just writing a resignation letter anymore. I was sending a message that told Mark exactly what his actions had cost me and how I would no longer allow myself to be invisible in the workplace. I was taking back my power. I hit send and immediately felt a strange sense of closure. The words were out there. The truth had been said. I had let Mark know exactly how I felt, and now there was no going back. The next morning I woke up with a mix of emotions. There was a sense of relief knowing that I had sent the email and made my voice heard, but there was also a nervousness that lingered. Had I gone too far? What if Jason confronted me? Or worse, what if I had somehow jeopardized my career by making such a bold move? But as the hours passed and I went through my day, I realized something. I didn't care anymore. I didn't care what they thought of me. I didn't care if the company was upset or if Jason felt uncomfortable. What mattered now was that I was finally free from a toxic environment that had held me back for far too long. I was no longer trapped in a cycle of disappointment and underappreciation. I had taken control of my life, and I wasn't looking back. Days passed, and I focused on my next steps. I began networking, reaching out to former colleagues, attending job fairs, and even considering starting my own business. I had always been good at what I did, and I knew that there was a place out there for someone like me. Someone who valued hard work and was ready to take on new challenges. But then, the unexpected happened. A week after I sent the email, I received a call from Mr. Stevens, my former boss. My heart skipped a beat as I answered the phone. "Kendall, I just wanted to reach out and speak with you about the email you sent to Mark," he began, his voice calm but firm. "I've been in the company for many years, and I've seen a lot of things, but I have to say, your message was unexpected. You've always been professional, and this kind of directness is not something we typically see." I could feel the tension rising in my chest, but I forced myself to remain calm. This was it. The conversation I had been both dreading and waiting for. I took a deep breath before responding. "Mr. Stevens, I meant every word I wrote. I've given this company everything I had, and in return, I was overlooked for someone who doesn't deserve the promotion. I needed to speak my truth." There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I wondered if I had made a huge mistake. Then Mr. Stevens spoke again. "You're right," he said, his tone much softer now. "I can't deny that your performance has always been top-notch. We've all seen how hard you've worked. And I'll be honest with you, Kendall, this promotion was a mistake. I should have recognized your efforts earlier, but we've made the decision to promote Mark, and now I see how much it's impacted you and your future with the company." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Did he just admit it? He was acknowledging that I had been wronged, that the promotion had been an injustice. "I've spoken with Mark about the promotion," Mr. Stevens continued, "and frankly, he's not prepared for the responsibilities of the role. It was a decision that was made hastily, and it's clear now that it wasn't the best choice." I felt a surge of satisfaction rush through me. I had been right all along. Mark wasn't ready. And in a way, this was all falling into place. The betrayal wasn't just about me being passed over. It was about the fact that the promotion had been given to someone who didn't deserve it, someone who wasn't even prepared for the responsibility. "I understand if you're upset, Kendall," Mr. Stevens said, his voice quieter now. "And I don't expect you to change your mind about leaving, but I want to make it right. If you're open to it, we would like to discuss offering you a new role, a position that recognizes your contributions, your skills, and your dedication." I was stunned. This was more than I had ever imagined. He wanted to offer me a new role? After everything that had happened, after I had resigned, he was offering me a chance to return and actually be valued? For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. I had spent days wrestling with the idea of leaving the company behind, but now it seemed like I had a chance to do things on my terms. This wasn't just a token offer. This was an acknowledgement of my value, my worth, and it was something I had earned. "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Stevens," I said, my voice steady now. "But I've already made up my mind. I've decided to move on. I've learned a lot from this experience, and I'm ready for a new chapter in my life. A chapter where I'm recognized for who I am and what I bring to the table." There was a moment of silence on the phone. "I understand, Kendall," Mr. Stevens replied. "I just wanted to let you know that we made a mistake, and if you ever change your mind, the door is always open." I ended the call feeling a strange mix of emotions. On the one hand, I was proud of myself for standing up and walking away, for not settling for less than I deserved. On the other hand, I felt a sense of empowerment. I had walked away from a toxic situation, and now I had the opportunity to create something better. I wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had control over it. Over the next few weeks, I took the time to reflect on everything that had happened. The decision to leave was difficult, but it felt right. I had taken a stand for myself, and that gave me an undeniable sense of strength. Walking away from a company that had undervalued me was empowering. I realized I didn't need to settle for second best. I deserved better, and now I was ready to find it. I started applying for jobs, networking more than I ever had before. This time, I wasn't desperate for any job. I wasn't going to take just anything that came my way. I wanted a company that would recognize me for the value I brought. I wanted a place where I could grow, where hard work and dedication were truly appreciated. Weeks went by, and I had a few interviews, but each one was an opportunity for me to showcase my worth, my experience, and what I had learned. Each interview felt like a step closer to finding a place where I could thrive, and I knew the right opportunity was out there waiting for me. Then, one afternoon, I received an email from a company I had applied to a few weeks ago. They wanted to offer me a position as a senior project manager. The pay was more than I had made at my old job, and the benefits were excellent. But more than that, the company's mission and values aligned perfectly with my own. I felt a wave of excitement wash over me as I read the email. This was it. This was the fresh start I had been working for. I went through the final steps of the hiring process, and within days I was officially offered the job. It wasn't just any job. This was a place where I could build something meaningful, where I could take what I had learned and apply it to projects that would make a real difference. It was a company that valued its employees, supported their growth, and offered opportunities for advancement. And most importantly, it was a company where my hard work wouldn't go unnoticed. The day I signed the offer letter, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. I wasn't just starting a new job, I was starting a new chapter in my life. A chapter where I was respected and appreciated, where I could finally show up as my true self, without fear of being overlooked or taken for granted. This wasn't just about the job itself, it was about taking back control of my life. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself thriving in my new role. My confidence grew as I took on more responsibilities, led teams, and made an impact. I was doing the kind of work I had always dreamed of, and I was doing it for a company that celebrated my achievements. I was no longer the employee who was overlooked or undervalued. I was the one who had taken charge, who had demanded more, and who had gotten what I deserved. Then, one day, months after I had left my old company, I bumped into Jason at a conference. It was awkward at first. He looked at me with a strange mix of recognition and guilt. I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. He had done exactly what I knew he would do. He had become complacent in his new role. His promotion hadn't made him a better leader or a more effective employee. He was just as lazy, just as ineffective as he had been before. Jason came up to me, his smile uneasy. "Kendall, wow, it's good to see you here," he said, trying to sound casual. "I've been meaning to reach out. I know things didn't end well, and I wanted to say I'm sorry." I looked at him, my gaze steady. I wasn't angry anymore. I had moved on, but in that moment I realized something. I didn't need his apology. I didn't need validation from him or from anyone else. I had already won. I had already moved forward and created a life I was proud of. "Jason, it's fine," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I've moved on. I'm in a great place now, and I'm happy with where I'm headed." He looked surprised, and for a moment, I could see the guilt in his eyes. But I didn't care. I wasn't going to let him take up any more space in my life. I had learned what I needed to learn, and I was stronger because of it. As I walked away from that conversation, I realized something else. I had learned to trust myself. I had believed in my own worth, even when no one else did. And because of that, I was exactly where I needed to be.